The rhinos have managed to hang on in this little national park, and that's the only place in the world they're found. So the current population is 72 animals. That's it. Hi, I'm Steve Wilson. I live in country Victoria and I lead what's called the Land Biodiversity and Indigenous Program at one of the catchment management authorities. In 1967, National Geographic sent a team of photographers into Ujong Kulong National Park in West Java, Indonesia to try and photograph the Javan rhino for the first time. So I was only 8 years old and there was only about 25 of these animals left at that point in time. It always stayed with me. When I'm old enough, I wouldn't mind studying those rhinos. And that was my initial inspiration, yeah. Well, Javan rhino are the most endangered of the 5 species. They used to be found right throughout Southeast Asia and now they're only found in one national park in West Java, Indonesia. So Java, Indonesia is the most populated place on Earth. So there's an enormous amount of pressure on natural resources and the rhinos have managed to hang on in this little national park right on the western edge. And that's the only place in the world they're found. So the current population is 72 animals. Well, one of the biggest threats, apart from human population growth and the need for more land and lack of available habitat for them, is there's 19 villages that surround the eastern edge of the national park, and they all have a reliance on the national park for food and resources. But most of these communities have their own herd of goats or a herd of buffalo, and these are not vaccinated, so they have all these potential diseases that could wipe out the rhino. Everyone's aware of it, but you've got poverty-stricken villages that don't have the money to inject their cattle and protect them from everything from anthrax to trypanosoma and all these different horrible diseases we take for granted in Australia because we have vaccination programs and expectation that we're going to manage those. One of the other threats is an invasive palm. It's called Arenga palm, Arenga obtusifolia, which is a native species that has invasive qualities. And over time, for a whole range of reasons, this palm has turned natural broadleaf evergreen rainforest into a monoculture, which is no good for a species like Javan rhino, which is a generalist browser that walks through the jungle and just eats as it goes. Fortunately, through my studies, we've been able to clear 15 1-hectare patches of monoculture palm and look at the plant response from that, and importantly, how soon do the rhinos move in, because they like disturbance. It's like an old rainforest tree might die and fall over, opens up the jungle to a whole heap of secondary growth and light and that active competition. Of course, the plant growth's really good, and the rhinos are really attracted to that, but if it's a monoculture, it's not doing any of that at all. So I've been able to prove that if you clear the monoculture, you can return it to pretty good habitat quite quickly. Most of the things that I'm finding out are relatively new to science. So, for example, one of the chapters in my thesis was about rhino wallowing. These wallowing sites, they're communication hubs. So what happens is because they're a shared resource, different rhinos come and wallow and they actually communicate. So I've actually identified 8 vocal descriptors and we've just developed sonograms. So that's the first time that this has ever been done. So they were thought to be a very non-vocal species, but I think they're pretty chatty. So now what we need is a second population somewhere, but where is it safe? So a lot of the work that I've been doing is actually finding out what's the baseline data we need. So that's the end game, is to have Javan rhino populations everywhere, so there's not 72, there might be 700 or 7,000 of them. That's the dream, you know. I think any time you can donate some money to the International Indonesian Rhino Foundation, because the money does good work. But I think certainly just education and awareness. I mean, I'd really like to get into doing some documentary work and actually saying, well, this is some of the challenges we've got, and trying to encourage some of those people with very fat wallets to go, actually, I like what's going on here, I wouldn't mind investing. So I think education and awareness is pretty important.